Tammy, thanks for coming on again. And we've got a great topic for everybody. It is uncovering your digital assets to find gold. And interesting topic. Tammy came up with the topic. It is a great topic. Tammy, thanks for being on. Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you. I really love talking with you, Jeff.
Yeah, that last time we talked about offline versus online marketing, and it was a great topic. And this is great too. And I like the way you kind of said this is to uncover gold. So tell us more about that.
Well, just a little bit about me, and since many of your listeners probably don't know who I am a authority marketer, and I work with people to help them uncover the gold that they may already have. And how I came up with this concept is I was looking at some big names. For example, Damon Johns. Everybody knows he's like, what, a billionaire marketer. Yeah. And he's known for being this super duper marketer. So I was looking at his websites and particularly at his YouTube channel. And I looked at it, videos, and I said, oh my goodness, Damon Johns is missing some vital links in his marketing strategy. And I imagine when you're dealing with huge money like that, a couple missing links could equate to thousands or even millions of dollars. And so, of course, I started to look at ordinary business people. And what I found is that often many people understand the concept of creating authority. They understand the concept of becoming an expert and making an impact and being an influencer. So they start to make content. They put content on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and other platforms. I mean, we have hundreds of platforms.
Yeah, Snapchat, Periscope, yes, the list is infinite.
So what I started to do is I said, well, what is my magical powers? And what I discovered was that I'm somebody who can see where people have digital assets that they're not using or that they're not using correctly. And I can uncover the missing link. For example, in my mind, I was visualizing it's like having a vault, like at a bank vault, and it's full of gold, full of money, and it's yours. You own it, but you have forgotten the password or the code or you don't have the key. Well, guess what? I have the key to open the vault. And once you open that vault, you own all of these digital assets and you can literally turn it into gold, meaning if you know how to make your digital assets work for you 24/7, 365 days a year, you will end up making more money, more income. Yeah. And that's what I'm really excited about.
Okay. Now that's a good point that you bring out. If you learn how to use it, you can actually transform it into being something that really works for you. I think one of the challenges I've found when working with businesses and consulting them on their strategy is the fact that either and this is usually the case, they get overwhelmed with so many assets and trying to do so much so quickly that they never master anything. So they're, what do they call it? Jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. So yeah, they go out and I gotta be on Snapchat. I've gotta be on Twitter. I've gotta be on this, that, and the third, but they never really get a sound strategy for each, or they stick with one and they stick within that bubble and go down with the ship if that particular asset doesn't produce as they expected. So they may say, well, I've heard Facebook is working. We're just going to stick with Facebook. That's all we're going to do. So how do you get that good balance, that good blend, or even recognize which ones you should even consider utilizing?
Well, what you just described are some of the biggest mistakes people make. So one of the things is you have to know who your ideal client is in the first place. Who's your ideal client, your ideal prospect? If they are not hanging out on Facebook, but you're putting all your energy into Facebook, well, guess what? You're in the wrong fishing hole, for example, and you're not going to catch anything because that isn't where your people are. And a lot of times you have to look at, for example, Snapchat. Who uses Snapchat? Well, a lot of younger people use Snapchat, but if you're talking to people age 45 and up, they may not even use Snapchat. So you have to know who your ideal client is, where they hang out. And then you also have to understand that LinkedIn, for example, is an example where a lot of people kind of shy away from it. They'll say, oh, the only people on LinkedIn are my competition. Well, that's number one, the wrong attitude to take, because a lot of people who you perceive to be your competition really are your referral partners. And the beauty of LinkedIn is that you can actually download your list of all of your people that you have on LinkedIn and pull them over into Facebook and make a custom audience of those people, and then start creating retargeting or remarketing campaigns. And that's an example of a hidden asset that many people are not even aware of yet. And that is using retargeting to talk to the people who actually already, for example, visited your website, yet they didn't do anything. But yet you can make a custom audience and start talking to them and providing content to them on Facebook or LinkedIn or even via Google. And you can like chase them around the web. But one of the things that I really focus on are people who, like I said, they make content, they have blogs, they have a website, they have Facebook. And for example, let's say that you make a video. Some people, what do? They upload it into YouTube and that's it. It's called 1234.mp4. They don't understand that, number one, you have to have an optimized YouTube channel, meaning you actually have to take the time to go in and create a channel that has your image at the top and that is connected to all of your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Google Plus and website, all of that. Those are all digital assets. For example, you have quite a following on Twitter. That is a digital asset. And I see on the screen that you're using your Google Plus, your LinkedIn and your Twitter and your YouTube, your marketing, your Mr. Marketology, right here. And those are all digital assets. So the big thing that I see is that people don't realize that they have the keys or the combination to the vault. They just don't get that there's a lot of work involved, and a lot of times it's not so much money as it is time and education to understand how to make these connections. And that's where someone like me comes in and I say, oh, look at this. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the plan. And let's go out there and start turning these assets into money. And I want to go back to the video. Videos are such a huge digital asset because, for example, let's say that you're doing Facebook Live or Google Hangouts. So if you wanted to turn this interview into a digital asset beyond whatever our interview time is going to be, it's going to be what, 25 minutes to an hour. I don't know. It could be longer the way I talk. But so what we could do, and everybody could do with any video or any interview, is transcribe it. So then we have it in writing, and then we can make blog posts from it. We can chop it up. We can make Twitter posts, Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts, and we
Mm-hmm.
can make this have a lot longer life. I can write a press release, or you could write a press release, but I am going to write a press release
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, I was interviewed on this show, talk a little bit about what we talked about, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to submit it to a premium press release service that's going
Mm-hmm.
to go out, and it's going to get picked up by ABC, NBC, Fox, CW, and
Yeah.
Miami Herald, and the Boston Globe, and all these other digital um, formatted magazines and medias. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help send traffic or people, I like to call it
Mm-hmm.
people, back to either watch the interview or back to you and me. So
Yeah.
that is, again, a massive digital asset, because often you get 400 or 500 different media outlets to pick up the article, and who knows who's going to read that. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know many people who they'll get a call from someone who they'll say, "Oh, I read the press release about you. Will you help me, or can you help me?" So
And that's
those are
true. Yeah, I've
examples.
heard from some things written years ago where people will come back and say, "Hey, we read this article, and that was 3 4 years ago, but it was relevant to them at that time." So that is definitely one way that it does turn into gold. So,
Right. And another thing about especially Google Hangouts, think about it. Google owns YouTube.
mm-hmm.
Google loves Hangouts
Mm-hmm.
because it's a property of Google, and they like to
Mm-hmm.
show off what they have. So this interview will get picked up in the Google search engines
Mm-hmm.
as, and it'll show up under whatever you have it listed under. And
Yeah.
again, it is a digital asset that you can turn into gold. It is just a matter of realizing that every interview you do, and think about it, the opportunities for the average ordinary business person exist. You can be
Mm-hmm.
interviewed on your local radio. You can be interviewed by local newspapers and magazines. You
Yeah.
can be interviewed on online radio or
Mm-hmm.
podcasts about your subject area. You can be interviewed for magazines, online digital magazines. Every
Mm-hmm.
one of those opportunities is an opportunity to talk about it in social media and share it with your people who follow you. And
Yeah.
of course, an opportunity to write that press release that can turn into multiple digital assets embedded
Mm-hmm.
on your website. So everything that you do in terms of content can be multiplied, 10 times, 20 times, 400 times, and
Yeah.
your online footprint grows. And
Mm-hmm.
again, every time you have one link on Google or Bing or Yahoo, that is a digital asset. And
Mm-hmm.
often what happens is, for example, and I'll use this show as an example because I think it's a really good example, is that we would do the interview, say thank you, see ya, and it goes out, and we do nothing with it. This is what happens
Yeah.
with many people. They don't ever use their interviews, or maybe
Yeah.
they get on TV and they
Mm-hmm.
see that opportunity on TV. I know many people who were on Oprah back in the day, or they were on
Mm-hmm.
ABC or the Today Show or Good Morning
Mm-hmm.
America, and they say, well, I didn't get anything out of it. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you want to know why? Because you weren't ready, and you didn't have a book, you didn't have an offer, or your website crashed. Like, how many shark stories have you heard when people go on the Shark Tank where they said, yeah, we got on the Shark Tank, and it was a real bum because our website broke.
Yeah.
Too many people, because they were not prepared for that influx of
Yeah.
flux of all of those people. So I think it's really important that everyone looks at everything they do, everything they write,
Mm-hmm.
Every interview they do, every video they make, first of all, they acknowledge that that is a digital asset. And then, of course, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be optimized, redistributed, and shared. And then you have to brag about it a little bit because it is
Yeah.
newsworthy. This
Yeah.
interview really is newsworthy because you are providing me what is called third person credibility because you are in the media and
Mm-hmm.
I'm being interviewed. So you're actually offering your credibility to me because you're introducing me to all of your followers. So that's
Yeah.
third person credibility, and people need to really embrace that and use it.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you said about LinkedIn. They're not competitors, they can be collaborators.
Yes.
Because with that, you can leverage your connections on LinkedIn to do interviews like this, talks like this, partnerships, and so forth, and reach out to not only your base, but their base as well. And so usually it's not competing because you're showing that you're an expert in that space.
Yes.
So that third party credibility is huge. And one thing I want to add to what you were saying is, first of all, having, like you said, having a plan, thinking it all the way through before you get started, and then second of all, taking action quickly. One thing that I've had challenges in the past with, and I've seen several companies that I've worked with that had challenges, would be that they would do the interview, but then instead of getting things post produced quickly and out in a timely manner, they would let other things get in the way. And then next thing you know, a day becomes a week, becomes a month, and you're now trying to put out something that is old to you now. That energy isn't there. So jumping on it quickly. So it's done. The interview's over. Go ahead, start the post production, start the post promotion, to take, like you said, to seize the gold out of the moment.
Right. And another thing is, even if you, let's say that you did an interview, and if the content is still good, is evergreen, don't
Mm-hmm.
don't say, oh well, I can't do anything with that now. Go ahead, and as like I said, as long as that content was evergreen content and it still pertains to today, go ahead and go and get it and share it. For example, I know that you and I reconnected because you reposted our interview a little while ago, and I was like, well, yeah, what we talked about was still pertinent and good and evergreen, and
Mm-hmm.
it reminded me of you, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, hey, I have some more good information to share. But that interview that we did before is still relevant today, so I could still like transcribe that, for example, and use
Mm-hmm.
that information out now and help promote and grow my influence and authority. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how our influence and authority is pure, solid gold, and
Mm-hmm.
how if you have television interviews that you've done, radio interviews, online interviews, or even old posts and blogs maybe that you've written, you can go back and use them, repurpose them, update them. And I'll give a couple ways that you could do it. Number one, you can go back and you can actually transcribe them. And
Mm-hmm.
gee, they could become a blog post, or they could be part of your next book, or a book. Because, for
Mm-hmm.
example, with Kindle, you can actually put out what are called short reads, and these are books that can be read in 15 minutes or less. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can put out longer books, and you can do interview books or multi author books. And then, of course, these also can be made into real books, physical books. And think about the power of that if you actually
Mm-hmm.
have a physical book when you go out into the community, and that becomes your business card. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be a huge book. And then a lot of times you can become a best-selling author on Kindle. That's another really phenomenal way to create solid gold as an influencer, because then you're introduced as a best-selling author, and that, of course, elevates your status. So there's just a lot of ways that you can find your digital gold. And again, look for the things you've already done. That is the gold that's locked in that vault that you are sitting on. That is so, it's like sitting on $1 million that you don't realize that you have. Or there's the story where about the being 3 feet from gold, where you're out there and you're doing everything you can, like you were talking about. People try these different platforms. Well, I'll try Facebook. Okay, you do it a little while. Oh, that didn't work, so you stop. Or I'll try LinkedIn, and maybe you'll send out some boring emails and nobody really responds because you're using the canned email responses instead of personalizing it to someone and actually acting like you care. And then you stop, and you stop 3 feet from gold. Or you make all these videos, but yet you don't understand, oh, you have to have a keyword loaded title. You have to put links into the description. You have to have the right tags. You have to optimize the channel and actually get subscribers now to get them to unlock some of the features. So there is a lot of, like I said, education that you have to do for yourself or hire other people to do for you. And what I find is a lot of these people, especially like I use Damon John as an example, they have all of these people working for them, but that doesn't mean that those people are keeping up on the latest cutting edge technology or on these tools. So they may be, 5 years behind, 2 years behind, sometimes 6 months is because Google, for example, they're always changing. You never know. Like the Google 3-pack, for example, it used to be a 7-pack, now it's a 3-pack. And then people are saying, wait a second, in some places, Google is replacing the 3-pack with their paid services now. And people are saying, uh-oh. And my answer to that was, don't put your eggs in one basket, basically.
Definitely. I mean, just like this Google Hangouts, how many times has this changed since we've done our interview?
Oh my goodness.
They changed the Hangout platform. I remember one time I was doing a Hangout, and then a week later I was doing another one, and the whole platform had changed. And it's like, wait a minute, that button, that's when they put the broadcast button at the bottom. And, it's like, wait a minute, hold on, where is this? And you have to relearn everything. So yeah, you're right. Don't, because here's the thing. A lot of businesses don't understand, and this is a conversation that a lot of times we sit and debate about, but they are not in business for your business. They're in business for themselves. So they're changing to better their business experiences. And your business should utilize them as tools, but not as partners. Because if they change, I have to read on this. I don't want to put a spoiler alert, but I've heard for a lot of money, billions of dollars, that Microsoft is buying LinkedIn.
Yes, that's a true statement.
Yeah. I read the article and I was like, I need more verification, because that's huge. Because you can guarantee if Microsoft buys LinkedIn, LinkedIn is going to completely change. They are going to change it, and it's not going to be the LinkedIn that you know now, because Microsoft and LinkedIn, they have different ideals and goals and so forth. So be ready for that. Just like, for instance, when Facebook bought out Instagram, be ready. There was a change. Snapchats came around, and they say Snapchat now has just as many, if not more, users than Twitter. Well, they're about to change things because they have more people and more people's needs that they need to fill. So they're going to change. And if you're just used to, we're doing it the way we did it, like I used to hear when I was designing websites, you know, we did it 20 years ago. Well, 20 years ago, there weren't websites like they are now. And so if you're living in the past and you're still doing that, you'll get left behind. And like Tammy was saying, 6 months in digital is a long time. Things change a lot in 6 months.
Oh my goodness, it is crazy. But like I said, it's really important for people. Number one, I have some clients back 5 or 6 years ago. I told them what they, it was like, you need to start thinking about Facebook. And Facebook is not something that you should say, oh, I'll let my son do it, or my granddaughter, or my relative do it, because it is not just about posting stuff on Facebook. It is a marketing tool. And a lot of people, I know that, I think when I started, I was charging something like $25 a week to handle their Facebook. And in their mind, they're thinking, oh my God, $25 a week for just posting stuff. And they didn't get that I was putting out a marketing plan. And it's really interesting because just the other day, the restaurant, who I think was my very first client, I made them, that was what I built them. It was a Facebook page and a Google, local Google Maps listing, and they don't have a website. Their Facebook is like their website. Well, they just sold that restaurant. And what do you think the new owners did? The first thing they did was they contacted me to find out how to leverage that Facebook, because they saw how it was set up to show the food with images and videos and the specials and how people commented. And so the difference between the first owner, who didn't even acknowledge that it was worth anything, and now the new owners, it's night and day, because the new owners go, whoa, we're going to use Facebook because we want to get customers into our restaurant every single day. And they're just going to town using that Facebook, and they're getting all kinds of interaction, great reviews. And of course, guess what else? They're filling the restaurant with people eating. And in Florida right now, as we speak, it is what is called the off season. So to have a restaurant full every day is huge, because they're using Facebook in the right way to attract people to come in. So that's really, really important. But again, it's really important. And I actually have a gold formula that I wanted to share. I've had a lot of fun with this, how to turn digital assets into gold in 24 hours or less. So my gold formula is G for gold. The G is to go out and gather up your assets, go see what you have. So gather is my G. The O is, of course, online, but I want to preface that the O of your digital assets, look at some of your offline assets that you may have. Go look at, what are you doing in the newspaper? What are you doing on TV? What are you doing on radio? What are you doing in magazines? Are you connecting your digital gold to all of what I call your old school media? If not, you must connect it so that you're bridging the virtual world and the real world. My L is leverage. You want to leverage, like what we talked about, take all your assets. If it's newsworthy, do press releases about it, both online and offline. And then D in my gold is distribution. And again, the press release system is part of distribution. Get those videos shared on all the social media programs. For example, this Google Hangouts, I'll be sharing it in all of my groups. And I know you've already started tweeting about it because you're a big tweeter. Or is that what they, you're a big tweeter.
I don't know. It is a tweeter.
That's funny. It just sounded funny when I said it. You're a big tweeter. But you want
like the kids would say, you're a big tweeter head.
but that will get you the digital gold. And I am really serious about this. When you start to realize that all of this stuff that you've been kind of doing, whamby pamby or whatever that is, willy
Mm-hmm.
nilly, where it's like, oh yeah, I've got some blog posts over here. Oh yeah, I did some videos over here. And oh yeah, I was interviewed on TV, but I didn't get anything from that Oprah appearance. You've got to
Yeah.
gather it up, put it together, and make a system. And what you'll discover is that you have a much larger online footprint than you realize. And
Mm-hmm.
you also will understand that you are much more than you ever realized. And I want to offer this. I'm also a Silva method instructor, which means I help people use more of their mind. And
Okay.
I do an exercise with people when I work with them and coach them. And it is real simple. It's asking yourself a question. Who would ever listen to me, and why? Why would anyone ever listen to me? And then you go and you start to, go look at your resume, go look at your digital assets, go look at all of your successes. And all of a sudden, you're going to realize, oh my goodness, people really should listen to me because I do have an authority. I do have an expertise. I did this
Yeah.
exercise for myself just the other day, and it was really
Mm-hmm.
eye-opening because I realized I hadn't claimed for myself some successes. Last
Okay.
year, I developed some products. One was a video marketing agency. Another one was Mobile Wizard, which was all about mobile marketing. And then
Mm-hmm.
another one was called Website Hero and
Okay.
Website Hero Expert. And then another one was about how to use video marketing to make $4,500 in a day. And those products, a couple of those were sold with somebody else, and we sold thousands of them. Well,
Mm-hmm.
because I never met all of those people, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that I had trained thousands of people about video marketing, mobile
Wow.
marketing, website marketing, and that I had helped people make money. And when I stopped and I went, whoa, I've actually helped thousands of people. It opened up something in
Mm-hmm.
my mindset. And that was actually how this idea about how to turn digital assets into gold came
Yeah.
about. It was that realization of, wow, I've helped thousands of people. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was really, really an eye opening experience. So ask yourself, why would anyone listen to me? And you're going to just have this, I'd say, a major breakthrough. And it happens like this, and
Huh.
it'll really help you.
Yeah, I know a lot of times my sister will tell me that she'll say, "Well, you're a lot more of an expert than you give yourself credit because you're so busy just doing the work. You don't really think about that, so you don't step back and look at how you added value. You're just consistently trying to find new ways to add value, and a lot of times I'll hear." How people really enjoy these type of interviews and how people really enjoy some of the information I pass and the ways that I've helped businesses grow. And it's to me just doing my job. It's doing what I do, but I never really took that time, and I need to do that. Take the time to step back and say, okay, this is you know what you bring as value to the community, and this is why they should listen to you versus saying, well, I'm gonna throw it out here. Hopefully, somebody will listen to it. Somebody will like it. And everything doesn't have to equate to how much business you get. There are people that value you, even though they don't particularly become a client or a customer, but they may be an influencer. They may refer you a lot of business. They may help you with getting the message out there. So, you know, a lot of times in business, that's another hiccup that we have because we want to equate everything to a dollar amount. And sometimes it's something outside of that.
I absolutely agree. And one thing that's really important in this whole scheme of life and being a marketing consultant and an authority mentor, I like to think of myself as a mentor, but it is, you have to give, the keyword, give value first. And when you give value, and again, without the thought of return, because often when we offer value, there isn't that immediate return. I always call it planting seeds. And sometimes we'll plant the seeds, like I've planted seeds like years ago that are just now starting to come back to me. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember I did that, or I gave this, or I went out and I spoke and offered a lot of high quality value to the community. And then somebody all of a sudden will remember you, or maybe you'll get a referral from them, or sometimes you'll sit with somebody and give them hours and hours of your time, and then they turn around and say, oh yeah, well, I'm going to have so-and-so do this work. And you know, you're like,
no,
heart falling. But then all of a sudden the law of reciprocity kicks in, and that person who you thought, you know, screwed you over turns around and refers you to someone who turns out to be a superstar client. And it's way better than you ever imagined, because who they referred you to, you know, is the perfect client, you know, the one who pays you know, pays for the value and really believes you're valuable. And then it goes from there. So I really think that that's something, you know, I always laugh and say that I have lots of KASH in my karma bank because I do, I give a lot, and sometimes, you know, I just give, and people may or may not return it, but I don't know what they're saying, and you know, I'm hoping that they're saying good things. And to me, that positive energy is a good thing. Like, just like what your sister says, you provide great value. And the people watching this interview, for example, I think that if they were paying attention, they probably got some golden nuggets out, you know, out of this, because everything that we talked about is something that they can do for themselves. They can go look for themselves. And
I think early on you stated something that's really key, and that's education. This is giving that education, even if you don't do it yourself, because you know, a lot of times I deal with companies that actually have agencies, but you know what you're looking for. You know what it should look like. A lot of times I'll tell people, when you know what good looks like, then you can properly manage whatever employee or agency that you have. But you have to know what good looks like. And so with this type of education, you know that if I don't have links, like you said, Damon John needs some links. Damon, call us, Damon. Be on the show. I'd love to interview you. That would be ideal. But
oh, go ahead. I just want to say something about that, about big people. A friend of mine, I mentioned it to him, and he says, well, just go like his Facebook page. He interacts with people there. And so I said, oh, really? So I did, and I'm going to, you know, go interact and see what happens. And you would be surprised at how many people you admire will say yes to an interview. And by the way, I do want to tell everyone about one of the projects that I work on. I'm actually a host on an iHeartRadio show called Business Innovators. And I interview business professionals, health providers, movers and shakers, trendsetters, of course, interviews innovators and thought leaders on this show. And I wanted to say that to anyone listening, if you are someone who is in business and you would like to be interviewed, you can contact me and I would love to do an interview, and there's no charge for this interview yet. Business Innovators Radio, it's an iHeartRadio show. It gets, we make a video of the interview, and we also it's out on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. And these interviews get picked up in Google because the show has probably, it's been on the air more than a year, and it has more than 700 episodes so far.
Oh, wow.
And it is a very popular show. And I personally interview a very eclectic group of people, but there is a method in my madness. For example, I'm interviewing people right now to be part of a book I'm writing. So I'm interviewing people about video marketing and podcasting and local marketing. So, and then I've also interviewed people who are divorce advisors, which is a very interesting group of people for another project. So, but again, the Business Innovators Radio show, what makes that a really good starting point is, number one, we have a conversation just like this, a little more formal, but we have a conversation just like this, and you're able to talk about your company, about your services. And then, of course, I ask you, where can we find out more about you? And it's a very positive way to create, guess what? A digital asset.
Yes. Love to contribute to the show whenever you have time, too.
Oh, great.
It's a great opportunity. And wow, 700 in a year, that means you were doing 2 a day. You're really putting them out.
All I can tell you is that my interviews have gotten, let's just say, better and better. When I first started, I was, very nervous. Now I really, I listen better. I have questions, but I listen so much better, and our conversations are so much richer, just like the way we're talking. We're sharing with one another. So it's a really cool opportunity. Oh, I would love to have you as a business innovator and to be part of one of my books, because I want to, I call it drag people up. I like to help other people that I see and admire as authorities. And it's so cool because I met these people, and like I said, that exercise about why should anyone listen to me, that is perhaps one of the biggest breakthrough moments that I've had recently, when I realized that I was not claiming my authority. And in today's world, you have to be seen as an authority, as the expert. And one of the divisions of my company is called Blue Ocean Authority, because you have to create your own blue ocean so that you're seen as the obvious and only choice, not only from the competition, but also from people who don't make a choice at all. They have to see that you are it, that you are the answer to their problem, because that is what we do. We solve people's problems. And for example, in my digital assets analysis that I do for people, I'm saying, hey, I know you have digital assets and they're just sitting there not doing anything. Let's turn that into impact, influence, and income. And once people realize that they really do, it's like that vault opens up, and there's all the gold and the diamonds, and you're sitting there going, wow, I've been sitting on this stuff for how long?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's sort of like you're taking them down the yellow brick road so they can get to the wizard. It's like,
Right.
okay, here's a couple of steps you need to take. We're going to go through that sleeping meadow. We're going to go through this. We're going to go through that. We'll show you. We're going to expose everything. And now that you know, now you can take better informed action. And so, and you're right. A lot of those assets are right there. You've already started. It's just you haven't finished. And that analogy of 3 feet away is so true. You're just one more action away from making it successful. But if you keep on doing what you've been doing and not really looking at it, kind of blindly swinging the axe, it's hard to hit your target. So, you just need to be a little more educated, and then you can put your resources in better places.
Right.
So,
I have an acronym for that one too. LEAP, learn, engage, apply, and prosper. Because
wow.
when you learn, of course, you get all this really good information. But if you stop there, who cares? You have to engage with what you learn, and you have to apply it, meaning you have to take action. You have to do it. And then, of course, what follows when you learn, engage, apply, prosperity and abundance. And again, this isn't always about money prosperity. This is about spiritual prosperity and abundance. It's about the whole.
Yeah.
Because we can't separate our business and our self, because it all starts right here in our head about how successful we are. And this is a very eye-opening thing when, because many of us, we just produce, but there's no plan. Like you said, there's no plan behind it. And so we don't get why we're not getting anything back. Well, because maybe we forgot the call to action. Maybe we forgot to put a buy link in it. I mean, I've actually watched as people stumble through creating their what they call marketing funnels, and often they forget a call to action. Hey, go here, do this. People need that, or they forget to put the buy link in, or even think that anyone would even pay for it. I mean, I'm guilty of that, and I find that sometimes people, I'll put a bonus, for example, to a product. They don't want the product; they want the bonus. I've had people write to me and say, "Can I just get your bonus? How much is that?"
Wow.
And what that told me is that people want real, they want actionable things, and they want it to come from somebody who's actually done it and not just talked about it. And I think that's really important because people, they've watched me stumble through all of my adventures since 2009 online, and they've listened to me share, how I got started and my failures as well as my triumphs and what I call my 2020 hindsight. That's why I love to do interviews for the Business Innovators radio shows, because people just share this phenomenal life experience. And I learn something from every single conversation. And then I can go, wow, I think I'll try that. Or, ooh, I'm not going to do that. So it's really cool to do these interviews. And again, to start creating your digital assets, and then to gather up those assets and make them start working for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I learned so much and build such good relationships with these interviews. It's a little selfish because I am here to learn as well. And you learn so much. And like you were saying, even with the failures, because that's what teaches you. Somebody that always wins, they don't learn much a lot of times because a lot of times they take some of the elements for granted. And so they don't even look at this is why I won. They just look at I won. But failure, you have to analyze what went wrong. And then that helps you learn what not to do and how to perfect it, and make it a better process. So, you learn not all failures have to be your failures. So you learn from yours and you learn from other people in these interviews, things that went right, things that went wrong, and things to think about. I mean, like after this interview, I'm gonna have to go back and look at my assets because I know there's some stuff missing. There's not enough time in the day, but it's not about tackling the whole elephant. Like they say, how to eat an elephant. It's not about tackling everything in one night. It's just about getting started, taking those steps, and then sooner or later, you're going to have more elephant eaten than you are not. So
right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it is. Baby steps equate to huge leaps. And it's just like losing weight. It's not about, what it's exercising a little bit, eating the right foods every day, just little baby steps. And then all of a sudden, boom, something happens. Because
tell my trainers about baby steps. I say, you need to tell my trainer that it's baby steps. Matter of fact, tomorrow morning when I go to the gym, that's exactly what I'm going to tell him. Look, it's baby steps.
Well, physical training, I imagine there are some different methods on that, but any step is better than procrastination or perfectionism. I've actually had some fabulous conversations with people about perfectionism, because how many people do you know, and this can apply to business or marketing, they have not started yet because they're still I have to learn some more. I'm not an expert. I don't know how to do this. I mean, for example, think about when you first started doing the Google Hangouts. Did you know what you were doing? No,
not at all.
You just said, hey, I'm going to try out this new platform. And no matter what happens, like, for example, today we were having some audio challenges. Did we give up? No, we messed around with it until we figured it out and it started to work. And it was little baby steps about that. And then as you get better and better, pretty soon it's boom, 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 boom. The same thing happens with our digital assets. And if choose something that you can do. And again, I love video. And the reason I love video is for the reason I stated earlier. It's because you can shoot the video, you can transcribe it, you can strip the audio, you can turn it into blogs, you can put it on LinkedIn, you can put it on Twitter, you can just use it all over the place, you can chop it up. There's just so much that you can do that it's just crazy, that the power of video and how you can duplicate it and multiply it out. It's probably, in my mind, one of the best tools that we have. And you want to, perfectionism, sweep that out and just start.
Yeah, a testament to that. I mean, I definitely agree the power of video is there. But I can speak on my personal failure. Is before I started shooting videos, it had to be high HD quality, had to be looking like some of the others out there that, have the lighting studio, they have the editor, they have all this. And for years, I'm not going to say just for a couple of weeks, it was for years, I didn't shoot my first video because I was wanting to get the right lighting and I was wanting to get the right microphone and I was all these different things. And I needed to hire a video staff and so forth. But it was as paralysis by analysis. And it was just perfectionism. I've heard from somebody very wise that said perfectionism is an excuse to procrastinate. And usually you just use it and say it's not good enough when it's well over good enough. Because the majority of people are not going to turn this off by saying, you know what, I just didn't like the way the video looked. I'm going to turn it off because it wasn't 4K. It wasn't the highest of quality of video. They're not looking for that. They want the content. They want the
Right.
information. You know, that's what's the value. So
I laugh because when I first started, I had a Kodak ZI-8 camera, and I would go outside. I live in Florida. It's hot. Well, it happened that I didn't have air conditioning anyway because, you know, it was 2009 and I was BROKE. So I'd do my video outside. And at the time I had some roosters. And every time I'd start to talk, the roosters would crow. And then I had my cats, of course, would come, and pretty soon there'd be meow, meow, or they'd start rubbing on the camera tripod. And of course I'd be perspiring, and I'd be saying, Facebook is not a fad. You can still see these online, by the way, and don't go look. I look very, very sweaty. But so what I started to do to incorporate the reality, because I didn't have any of those things that you just mentioned, I started to say, hi, this is Tammy down on the farm. And so then when the roosters would crow, it kind of became fun. And then I have another one. I had a horse and she passed away, but this horse, I'd stand there and she'd get behind me and the horse would move her lips.
Oh, wow.
As I spoke, she'd like, I don't know what she was doing.
So that could have went viral easily.
But the horse is back there moving her lips. I'm going to have to find that because it's hilarious. And I'm talking about, you know, online marketing, and this horse is in the background, like blah, 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 like this. And it's so funny.
She is photobombing you.
Yeah. And then I have some where the video is like, because the cat's rubbing on the tripod. So of course the camera is going back and forth because the cat's rubbing on it. So, and again, like you said, all I knew was I had a goal, and the goal was I wanted to quit having to drive an hour and a half each way to go to work. And I wanted to become a full-time consultant. And I started in May of 2009, and I actually became a full-time consultant in November of that year. And the funny part about that was that it wasn't because I was ready to quit the job. It was that they laid me off. So the beauty of it was that I had 6 months, and I had by then 3 or 4 clients. And as soon as that job ended, boom, I could devote 24 hours a day to my new business, and my income tripled in 30 days. So, so through that, you know, misfortune of getting laid off, it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have probably kept saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. I need another client. You know, I would have kept hanging on to that security, even though it you know, it was very taxing, you know, 3 hours a day commuting. And so, I saw a beautiful graphic the other day. It said, perfection is stagnation. And I saw that and I said, you know, you're absolutely right, because if you just take action, and it's like the universe says, hey, she's doing something. Okay, let's help her. You know? And it's like good things start happening. People show up who you need. You know, a client shows up. You know, when you start to just say, okay, I'm going to just do it. That's when things start coming to you. Really a positive thing.
Yeah, and that's true. My trainer says it all the time, that he hears so many people talk about how they need to lose weight sitting on the couch, and they never go to the gym, they never do anything, but they say, I need to lose weight, and
guilty.
It just doesn't happen. You have to do something. You have to do something. But you know, and that's the way life is. I've always lived by this in my life, that God opens up doors, But if you don't take those doors and opportunities, sometimes he closes the doors and opens up a window and throws you out the window. And that's what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs. You end up losing your job, and it forces you into doing something that you've been dreaming of doing for years and just never took that step because you saw the opportunity, but I'm just not ready. And so he says, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this door and I'm going to just open up the window, toss you out the window, and you have to start fending for self. And then you start doing what you needed to do in the first place. And so, it's that perfection is always there. I mean, I laugh. There's so many analogies that we can go, but even when we was in high school and we were dating, there were certain individuals you wanted to talk to. You never talked to them because you never felt ready. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then you find out from a friend that's half your looks, half your assets, and he just ugly for no reason. Just walk up and talk to her. And she's like, hey, how you doing? Like, how did you do? Well, hey, I just walked up and talked to him. So
exactly.
But yeah, it's about action.
That's so funny because I found an old newspaper clipping the other day. I was a newspaper editor, and the story I wrote was about my son, and he did the Young Eagle program where they take you up in an airplane and you learn how to, you get the experience of being in one of these little airplanes. And my son was about 8 years old, and I took him to this event. And he looked at me like, I don't want to do this. And I said, just go get in the plane and sit in it. And if you don't like it, just come out. So he did that. And he ends up going up in this plane and he had a great time. But what I wrote was so funny. It was, Kent is going to fly like an eagle, whether he wants to or not. That was what I wrote. And I laughed. I mean, I sat there and I laughed for probably 5 minutes just thinking about that experience and then applying that to us, like what you just said. If God throws you out the window, and what do you have to do? You better soar like an eagle, whether you want to or not. And I think that's the thing is we have to, if we really, really have hopes and dreams, that big why we want it is so important, because if your why isn't big enough, no matter what happens, you're just going to stop. It's like, it could rain and you go, well, God doesn't want me to work today. So because it's raining, and maybe you're in the lawnmower business, and instead of going, well, I'll clean my equipment and do something.
I'll send out emails. Ready. I'll prospect.
So you have to accept the challenge and fly like an eagle, whether you want to or not.
Whether you want to or not. And my uncle tells me all the time, and my mentors tell me all the time, it's not about feelings. And that's one of the hardest things to get over, because sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. You just feel like it. And that's when the why kicks in. And the why has to be something that's bigger than just income. Has to be bigger than income. Because income comes, it goes. Then what happens when you get the income? That's what happens when you hear those rags to riches stories, and then riches back to rags. The why wasn't big enough. And it's like they had the money, but they weren't satisfied after that. So knowing your why, and in business, having a why is so important, because if you don't know your why, you can't really express your value to your customers' needs. And they don't know your why because you don't know your why. And so having that why creates movement, and it creates a movement that people can get behind. And if that's the case, once they get behind you, like you were saying, with that whole leap, the last thing is prosperity. So, that's a part of it. Well, Tammy, thanks for coming on. I know you got one more point. Go ahead. I see it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, LEAP is learn, engage, apply, and prosper. And it's just a real simple little concept. But, think about it. Just do something, get started. And I really, again, I want to thank you so much. And definitely everyone, you're invited to be on my Business Innovators radio show on iHeartRadio. It's a free interview, no charge, and I would love to talk to you.
Great. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And be sure to remember to leap and then strive for the goal. And if you didn't get the acronyms, rewind this, listen to it again. But leap and look for those goals. All right, everybody. Thanks again for being on the marketing strategy session, and we will talk to you soon.